What a beautiful day, huh? The sun is shining outside. It's supposedly going to shine this afternoon and tomorrow and maybe even 3 days in a row. What a great time to be here, right? Hey, if you have not been with us the last couple of weeks, we have been in a message series talking specifically to single people. And we've asked our married folks and those that are giving up the hope of ever marrying to kind of put up while we kind of focused on this group. And if you've been around, we have been talking about a couple of key ideas. And the first one is simply this. So often, as a single person, you're looking for that right person, hunting for them. And you just believe this myth that says, if I find the right person, everything is going to be just perfect. Because they'll be right? And we've been talking about that. That's not necessarily the way to look at it. In fact, the better way to look at it is, am I becoming the right person? Am I becoming who the person I'm looking for is looking for? Because if I become the person who I'm looking for is looking for, then I'll be set up, and if they're doing the same thing, then when we meet, we really will find the right people, and things will go much better than if we're simply looking for that right person out there who will fit in and fulfill all our needs and our ideas. And there's actually a text that I think I want to share with you as we begin today, because it really captures my heart of why we've been doing this, and I believe it captures our church heart. It captures the heart of those of you who are single, those of you who are couples, those of you who are married, those of you who are married with kids, maybe a lot of kids. It captures the heart of you kids and you adults and you widowers and you who are divorcees. It kind of captures everybody's heart, at least I think, of the intent of where we're at. And it comes from over in Philippians chapter 1. It's sort of the beginning thing that Paul writes to this church in Philippi here. But I want you to think about it and hear it as much, not just from my heart, but more importantly from God's heart this morning, as his message to you of what we hope that's happened these last few weeks and what we hope happens over the next few weeks as we gather together, as we try to worship together. And here's what it says. Paul says, listen, this is my prayer for you. This is it. That your love will grow. This idea will increase and abound more and more. That's my prayer for you, that your love will grow. That you will have knowledge and understanding with your love. So it's not just simply this, hey, it's the chemistry and everything feels good because I'm in love. Springtime. Love. You know, that the whole, he says, you know, you got to have something that goes with it. I want you to have understanding, knowledge that goes with your love, because love's important, but you got to have some knowledge and understanding. That you will see the difference between good and bad, and you will choose because that's what we hope for people. I want you to understand the difference between those things and to choose the good. Because for a lot of us, and single people, I've been telling this last week, there are married people sitting around you that wish they could go back and do things differently. Don't look at anybody, don't poke anybody in the side of the elbow, just look straight forward today, all right? But trust me on this, there are people today that wish they could go back and redo things, who had seen the difference between good and bad, and they know they chose the bad because it just felt so right at the moment. Because there's nothing better than feeling like you're in love, right? Oh, you know, he mentioned me, he smiled at me, you know. She gave me the look, she walked past, you know. You know, you're doodling your name, what your name will look like with his last name, and you know, you get all caught up in all this stuff, and you know at the moment it probably wasn't the smartest thing, but you were in love, and Paul says, listen. And what we're trying to say these last few weeks is, listen, I want you to know the difference between good and bad, and I want you to choose the good. And it's not just because it's the right thing to do. It's the most important thing to do. Because if you're single at this moment, you get the chance to get this right at the very beginning. And not have to try to get it right the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. If you're there, the likelihood of getting it right kind of goes down each of those times. That you will be pure and without wrong for the coming of Christ. That you'll be filled with the good things that produced in your life by Christ to bring glory and praise to God. And I want you to know, because that's been my heart these last few weeks, is to try to give you something good, something that's helpful, something to help you kind of think these things through before you're in the sort of the midst of that great chemistry feel, and all your hormones are surging, and you're feeling wonderful, and you're in love, and you know, you get kind of stupid. People get stupid when they get in love, right? Right? Amen. Yeah, see? Notice none of the single people said amen. It's all these ill. Yeah, amen, that's right. We've seen it. We've done all that kind of stuff. And the reality is, there is enough unavoidable pain in life. And there isn't a person in this room that has not experienced some unavoidable pain in life. Because it just happens. Sometimes it's out of our control. Sometimes it's in our control, but we can't do anything about it. But there's enough unavoidable pain in life. Why create unnecessary, avoidable pain? And as we wrap it all up today, I'm going to talk to you about some ways to avoid some of that unnecessary, avoidable pain. But before we jump into it with all fours, or twos, I guess today, all twos, I want to invite you just to bow your heads and let's pray one more time together, right? Father, I pray that we heard your heart through the words of your servant Paul as he wrote those words to the Philippi church. That you really do pray for us. That you have this great desire for us. That we'll experience love in all of its forms. But that we'll experience it with knowledge and understanding. That somehow we'll understand the good and the bad, and that you would help us to choose the good. That we'll think about the purity of our lives. And not just purity before we're married, but even after we're married. And that to really think about the choices we make in life and how they really can glorify you. And today I just want to stop and pray for those who have been looking for love and maybe looking for it in all the wrong places. I pray that something that's been said or shared over these last few weeks will be of help to them to become the right person. So when and if that right person comes along, they'll have a great preparation and a great start that hopefully can lead to a great ending with them. In your name, amen. Every week, every weekend, around this country, in every big city around this country, there's a woman who gets dressed typically in white, and she looks beautiful at that moment. There's a guy who gets in a tux, and he looks better than he will ever look again in his life. And they have spent weeks getting ready for this moment. They spent thousands of dollars. They do the whole thing. They come down the aisle. They stand at somebody much like me, and we lead them through this process. We have them do these things, they vow, these promises to each other. And at the end of each one of those, they either say, I do or I will. Yeah, I mean, some of you may not want to say that because you're sitting next to somebody, not sure you're there yet. But those are the two words, I do or I will. And here's what happens. Every weekend, people make promises that they cannot keep. And it's not because they're lying about them. It's not because they don't have a desire to keep them. The reality is they make promises they can't keep because they're not prepared to keep them. Because they've been in love. And love makes us stupid. I can't tell you how many times I've required couples that I marry or that get married in the churches I've served to go through premarital counseling for probably 20 years now. That's a requirement. You got to go through this. And I've had people come. I had this guy come one time, an older guy, probably around 60 years old. And he said, I want you to marry me and the lady I've met. And I said, well, we got this policy. You got to go through this premarital, process. And he's like, why? I'm a member of the church, and I'm old enough to know what I need and what I don't need. She's old enough as well. We understand all this stuff. Just marry us. And I said, no. How come you won't? I said, well, what your response today is one of the reasons I won't marry you, because you don't understand the importance of preparation. We all think that all it takes is somebody that we fall in love with, and everything else will fall into place. And we make those promises, and we mean those promises when we do it. But that failure to prepare, and it's really, promises are no substitution for preparation. And we know that. How many of you have ever run a marathon? Really, that many? Bless you all. Let's give them a hand. I mean, that's impressive. Man. My hand didn't go up. I trained for one time because the option was you could run or walk. I chose walking. And I was serious about it. And Lori, we had a whole group that were doing it, and we were out there every Sunday walking, and then we had the guy had come up to schedule how much you had to walk and how often you had to walk, and at some point, it seemed like you were going to be walking more than there was enough hours in the day. I didn't make the promise I was going to do it, but I said, yeah, I think it's going to work. But the preparation told me, I don't think so. But we understand that if you're going to run the marathon and you sign up on the line, you pop down your 100 or 150 or however much money it costs down, and you promise, I'm going to do this, you don't just go back home and sit around and eat chips, have some milkshakes, because milkshakes are wonderful, and then, I'm carbing up because I heard you're supposed to carb up, And then lo and behold, it's the day of the race. You don't, go out and buy some shoes the night before, decide now I'm going to end it. All of us understand. We all go, duh, that's a dumb moment, right? Nobody be that stupid, right? To make a promise, a commitment, and not prepare for it. And every weekend it happens. And it's not because they're bad people. It's just because they believe this whole thing, that if I just meet the right person and fall in love, everything will just fall into place. And they kind of look at this whole idea that, their past doesn't really, it's about what's happening right at the moment. And Jesus had a lot to say about this idea of thinking through, about preparing. And probably his most famous is found over Luke chapter 14. And it's in the context of being his follower, a disciple of his. But I think it has application in lots of areas of life. And he says this, listen, you cannot come with me unless you love me more than you love your own life. Which, if you're getting married, you want the other person to say that to you, right? Oh, I love you more than life itself. You want somebody that's really in it for the commitment. Jesus says, you can't follow me, you can't come along with me unless you're really serious about this stuff. And he goes on and says, you cannot be my disciple unless you carry your own cross and come with me. That you got to be involved and engaged in all this. And then he makes this illustration. He says, listen, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. What is the first thing you'll do? He gives me the answer, all right? So I don't have to tell you what it is. He says, won't you sit down and figure out how much it will cost and if you have enough money to pay for it? Right? Because the point is, if you get out and you say, I'm going to build something, and probably you've seen people do this, they start to build something, they get partway through it and lose interest, lose money, can't come through. He says, what will a king do if he sees this battle, thinking about this battle? Won't he first sit down and decide if he can win? Because if he can't win, Jesus goes on and says, if he thinks he isn't able to defend himself, he will send messengers and ask for peace while the other king is still far way off. He considers, can I do this? Can I fight this? If not, what's the best negotiation arrangement I can get? Jesus says, isn't that how it works? When you think about choices, big things in life, shouldn't you have preparation? Shouldn't you think through this whole thing? And he says, if you want to be my disciple, it will cost you everything. Don't underestimate that cost. And single people, if you're ever planning on getting married or hope that's going to happen someday, maybe you'll find the right person and fall in love and everything will work out. I don't want you to underestimate the value of preparation today and how it can pay off huge later. But here's the truth. Single people, you will never have more time. Some married person say amen. You will never have more time or be less motivated to work on this than right now. That's a true statement. You will never have more time. If you talk to somebody married, it gets crazy. Especially if you have put those a couple of kids in there, It gets really crazy. You don't have time to sit down and think. All you're doing is, cleaning up messes and wiping things off and washing things and putting them away and getting ready for the next thing. You will never have more time, and you will never be less motivated. Because you're thinking the same thing I thought when I was younger, and a lot of other people did, which is, you know what? When it happens, it'll happen. I'm just living the good life right now. Having a good time. When the right one comes along, then I'm going to get serious. I'll get my act together, and everything will be great. And the problem is, the time when we're most motivated to fix those things typically happens way too late. I mean, I see it fairly regularly. A couple will come with some marriage issues, that they think are marriage issues and they're really people problems that they've kind of created through this and they haven't dealt with it, and all of a sudden now they're really motivated to get these things fixed. And they will spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars going and seeing people that are going to fix them, they're going to take care of all this stuff. And single people, I want to give you some heads up to say right now is the best time to do that preparation. But I know your motivation's really low, but I still got to give it my best shot, all right? All right? Yeah, there's a big crowd there today. All right, yeah. Yeah, good luck, Mike. All right. I want you to write this down. The paths we choose are greater than the promises we make. The paths we choose are greater than the promises we make. Paths, those habits, those processes, the way you do things, those things get instilled and set and they get hardened in life, and we think we can make a promise. We stand before God and all of our family and friends and say, you know, honey, I'm never going to love anybody else like you. Yeah, I know we had the bachelor party last night, but that's the last time, you know, because it was my last shot, and now it's really going to get serious. And I'll just tell you, single folks, as you're out there looking, making yourself available, recognize that the paths people have chosen are greater than the promises they make. Even if they take your hands and get down and say, oh, honey, I blew it again, but, you know, I'm working on this, and you're going to help me work on this through all this stuff. Because you're my heart, baby. You're my soul, and you're going to help me get through all this stuff. I know I've made some mistakes. Yeah, I know it happened again last night, but it's not going to happen again. There are unavoidable pains in life. And there are avoidable ones. And the past is a more accurate indicator than a promise. And you know that. You don't want to believe it, but you ought to know that. Where somebody's been, the habits they've formed are going to be much more accurate indicator of what's probably going to happen in the future. I mean, statistics show this all over the place. And I want you to be aware of those things before you get too far down along the road. And so, to do that, we're going to go someplace. We're going to do a to-don't list. Because all of you, when you're out looking for love, you got a list in your head of what that other person looks like. I had somebody catch me a couple of weeks ago and said, well, you know, Pastor Mike, I'm going to have to, I guess, you know, I got to be what I'm looking for, so I guess I got to start working on some abs because I'm looking for a guy with abs. And I said, well, you need to know something. Every guy has abs. Some of us just have more well-protected abs than others. So if you're looking for a guy with abs, you're kind of, you know, everybody's kind of an open option there. But we all got these lists, you know, what I'm looking for, you know. We got these lists, and for some of us, you know, our list gets real short because they smiled at me. I know we don't have a job, but he's cute. Mama, he's cute. You know, Daddy, I know I have to take him all over the place, but he's working on getting a car. He's working on, well, I think he's thinking about getting a job. I know he considers it every day. He's sitting there playing video games. I mean, he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it, you know. We all got our list, and I want to go through a to-don't list, and you're going to help me out this morning do it, okay? So we're going to go down. There's number 1, there's 2, I think there's 6 of them. And there's a little word in brackets, parentheses, the word don't. Everybody say don't. Okay, you're going to help. I'm going to say number 1. You're going to say, and then I'm going to tell you what it is, all right? So this is the to-don't list. Number 1, ignore your past. Don't worry about your past. Let your past be your past. Let's just get on, you know. The past, you know, it's kind of like those advertisements for mutual funds. You know, the past performance is not an indicator of future performance. Do you know why they put those things there? Because we know intuitively that past performance is, and most things in life, is an indicator of future performance. Now, stock market, they're probably accurate on that. Right? Last few years, you know, it's all over. So, but in life, not so accurate. Don't ignore your past. And what I'm talking about is this idea of getting prepared to be able to stand before God and before witnesses and family and friends and before the person you love and to be able to make those promises and have those promises backed up by preparation. And if you got issues in your past, and you drag them along, they will show up in your future. How many of you ever stepped in dog waste? Lovely experience, right? A number of years ago, I think it was in Africa, and we were going to this restaurant, and I stepped in something, and I thought, that kind of smells funny. And then, wiped it all off, sat down at the restaurant, we're eating, and about every 5 minutes, the smell, and all of us were kind of going, I wonder what that smell is. At that moment, it was about halfway through dinner, I recognized what the smell was. But there isn't a whole lot you can do with that smell. And my point is, when you step in stuff, and you drag it along, it keeps popping up at different places. Now, I'm going to go to somebody much smarter than me, a couple by the name of the Parrots who are great. Any books these folks write, any DVDs, that kind of stuff, pick them up from these folks. There we go. Les and Leslie Parrott. If you attempt to build intimacy, and they're talking not just about physical intimacy, just kind of this connection. If you attempt to build intimacy with a person before you've done the hard work of becoming a whole and healthy person, every relationship will be an attempt to complete that hole in your heart. Everybody say, ooh. Yeah, ooh. Because it's true. All of us have stuff. All of us have stuff from growing up. But if you got some big issues with one of your parents or both your parents or all your family or whatever the case is, if you don't fix that, it will keep popping up in your relationships. What's going to happen is you're going to get married. You're going to say, I do, oh, I will, baby, we're all in this together. And about 6 months down the road, something's going to happen. And all of a sudden, one of you is going to be the target and the other one will be the targeter. And it'll be stuff that comes from their past. There's this hole that's there that they haven't kind of allowed God to work in healing. They haven't really wanted to pull out and deal with it and fix those things. And so they just kick it down the road, and then it pops up. And one of you will say something like, hey, let's go out tonight. And the other one will say, I just want to stay in tonight. And the other one will just blow up out of nowhere. And it's like, I just said I wanted to stay in tonight. What's the whole big deal? And off it goes, and even the person sometimes doing it doesn't know where it comes from. And so much of it comes from our past. So single people, don't ignore your past, because it will show up in your present and it will show up in your future. As much as somebody promises, somebody says to you, you're going to help me through this, baby. You complete me. There is nobody, I want you to hear me very clear today, there is nobody living on this planet, walking on this planet today or tomorrow, that will ever complete you.
Yes, amen.
Only God can complete you. Only God can heal those things. And if you're looking for somebody because they're going to complete you, we're two halves to a whole, and it's all going to be wonderful, good, they will disappoint you and you will disappoint them. Because you've put the bar out there for them to reach that is beyond everyone's reach. Number 2. Well, wait, let me get there first. Number 2. Look for fixer-uppers, because they're great bargains, right? Siemens, real estate, right? Great, you can get in the ground floor, you can do what you want, fix it up how you want it to do, right? And there's a whole lot of people, a lot of women especially, that think, I'm going to get him. He's a fixer-upper now, but wait till I get done with him, girl. Going to take him and make him and shape him, and ooh, baby, he's going to be, and it's a bargain level right now. I see you shaking your head. But you know that if he or she showed up, gave you a little attention, oh yeah, I think we can work with this. Don't let chemistry overcome your brains in this, all right? You need to be a whole person who's looking for a whole person. And if you're looking for projects, go adopt a puppy. But if you get a project, trust me, you will have a project the rest of your life, because past performance is an indicator of the future. Now you may say, that's kind of harsh, Mike. Don't you believe in redemption? Don't you believe in changed lives? I do. I just don't believe it for you. And the person you're potentially thinking about, oh, we're going to be in love, all right? See, marriage is not designed to fix or solve anything. Think about that for a second. Because we think, oh, if I just get married, it'll fix everything. We're committed, build a home, somebody always be there, be wonderful to care for each other. We get all this kind of stuff. Marriage is not designed to fix or solve anything, all right? In marriage, the good things get better, and the bad things get... Don't look at it, just look forward, all right? Don't elbow anybody. But it's true. And marriage brings those things out because now you're connected. You're cemented. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. You're cemented with this person. And that stuff that kind of just has this habit of showing up. And once you get married, everything gets more complicated. All right, number 3. No. Fish, then cut bait. Just out that fish. Just get, go through. And once you get them in the boat, then you'll go through the sorting out of all that stuff. Because that's a great process to do. I want to talk to you ladies for just a second. Ladies, do you know how a fisherman decides what kind of bait to use to catch what he's after? What kind of fish is, that's right. Whatever fish he's fishing for, that's the kind of bait he uses. So ladies, I want you to think about the bait that you're using. Your choice of bait determines what you catch. Oh boy, oh boy. You go through and you think, well, I'm just kind of out there and I'm just kind of putting myself out and we'll kind of see how it goes. Kind of go. I got to go through all these, frogs to get to a prince. We've got all these great lines, You don't have to do that. But that's the idea. I can just fish and then I'll cut bait. I'll kind of put it out and then I'll kind of sort through. And ladies, you may be sitting and think, it seems like every guy I meet's a jerk. Every guy I go out with's a jerk. Well, the answer may be, no, maybe every guy you go out with is a jerk, but that doesn't mean everybody's a jerk. It's about what you're advertising, what you're putting out there, what you're attracting. Let's walk through this illustration for you ladies. Think about the 5 last guys you dated that, just weren't any good. The first guy, the second guy, third guy, fourth guy, fifth guy, and you were the first guy, second guy, third guy, fourth guy, fifth guy, and you. And what's the one common thing through all those things? That's right, you. So if all you're meeting is these kind of guys, you have to ask yourself, what am I fishing for? What kind of bait am I putting out? Because if all I'm attracting is these knuckleheads, and I'll be honest with you ladies, most of us guys are knuckleheads, right? We'll take that. But if that's all you're attracting, then you have to ask, what am I putting out there? And if you're going to the club and getting everything in the right places, because I'm gonna put it out and see what we can kind of attract. If what you're attracting is based on your physical looks, what you're selling, then remember, that's the kind of fish you're going to catch. And to keep that fish around, you're going to have to keep attracting them with the same bait. And ladies, you may be cute right now. Number 4. Believe your finances will fix themselves. Because if we just get together, if we just live together, we get married, we'll have 2 salaries going to one, we'll have 1 rent, we'll have, we start thinking through, so this will work out, And my debts will get fixed because I got somebody else. I am terrible with finances. But you are so good, baby. You take care. You seem to understand all that stuff. I don't understand that stuff. I get money, I spend it. I spend it even when I don't have money. I don't understand how this all works, but, you're so good with it. And we think by getting married that somebody else is going to have that ability to get things in line. And I remind you again, past performance really does give you a good picture of future performance. And everybody has issues with money. Everybody, how they see money is different. when Lori and I got married, I'm a very frugal, cautious, considerate spender. Very thoughtful, very detailed to it. Lori is not that way by nature. Now, she is 100 times better, and thank you, dear, you're 100 times. She's handled our finances for most of our married life. Everybody should give her a hand in that, because there are moments when there were a number of years when we would do financial reviews occasionally, just to see how she was lining up, But I'll admit, I was terrible when we first got married. Because to me, money is security. Having money in the bank says, I got money in the bank, Big John. I'm all right. No money in the bank puts me at I get kind of edgy. So money in the bank is security. Knowing where the money goes is security. But I was terrible to Lloyd when we first got married. Because we were on we weren't making very much money, and we were getting paid once a month, and we'd end of the month, and we'd be down to beans and rice. And I'm not a big fan of beans, by the way. But that's what you got. And so I was trying to figure out ways we could squeeze a little bit longer out of that money. And she would come home from the store. And we were doing the old, get an envelope, put a certain amount of money. Anybody else do that? Envelope, a certain amount of money. There's groceries, there's rent, there's a couple pennies for fun, and you get it all kind of laid out. And so she'd go to the store. She'd get home, I'd say, let's see the receipt. And the pennies aren't adding up. And I was terrible. And I tell you that because everybody looks at money differently. But if you have out-of-whack finances, they're going to pop up and they're just going to ruin things there. You will get out of debt faster single than married. You think, oh, no, we'll have twice, we'll have more money coming in. You will also have more money going out in lots of ways. Number 5. Live together before you're married. Because you got to practice. Practice makes perfect, right? Got to see if we're compatible, right? Got to walk down, just kind of get all. And ladies, you need to hear me clearly on this. One of the biggest issues is how you see that arrangement and how guys see that arrangement. You think the way you see it is the logical way, and it's going to be the way he thinks. And I can tell you that the way he sees things it seems logical to him, and he doesn't really care what you think. Couples who live together have a much higher chance of divorce. It's a statistic. You can go out, you can Google it, go check online. Couples that live together have a much higher chance of divorce. It's a statistic. It's proven. You can't argue with it. Well, you can argue with it, but you're stupid. You don't want to be stupid, so you can't argue with it, all right? Women move in with men thinking it's a step towards marriage, right? We're getting them closer to the altar. Maybe just a couple more steps, and we're there. It'll kind of help them fall in love greater for me. That's how women think. Men move in with women to see if they want to stay in the relationship. Kind of going in different directions, aren't they? She thinks it's a step closer. He's just seeing if he even wants to take another step in this whole thing. But it's comfortable, and it's okay, and he thinks the money will go a little farther, and somebody will cook his food and clean up after him because he misses his mom, do my laundry. Everything will be great here. Women move in because of love. We're in love, and I want to move this relationship along, and this is sort of the next step, and, it'll be great, and I can show how much I care about him and take care of him. And men, it is what it is. And you need to know it is what it is. Because how you are viewing it is not probably how they're viewing it. You need to know something. I have never, ever heard from any couple, whether it's dealing with some marriage issues or just kind of talking and talking about how we kind of got together and some of our experiences. I have never heard anybody in any couple say, I wish we'd gotten physical earlier in our relationship. But I've heard a lot that people say, I wish we'd waited till later to get physical, to get intimate, to get into this whole thing. Here's a scary statistic. Do you know that somebody that's lived with somebody else more than 3 times, 3 times and more actually, the rate for that marriage to work is almost 0. If they live with 2 and then live with a third person and they either marry the third person or find a 4th one and they get married, the likelihood of that thing lasting is almost 0. Now, I know something about statistics. Statistics are only great if they back up what I want to believe. I've been so thrilled the last few years. Chocolate's good for you, right? Praise the Lord, people finally came to their senses, right? That's a good thing. It's a statistic you pull out. But have you noticed that's how we use statistics? I pull it out when I wanted to back up what I want, when I don't want to walk them. I'm not so cool with that statistic. I'm not so sure it's true. Singles, I would just encourage you. Do the research. See the statistics. But there's one last thing on your don't list that's related to this. And it's the issue that when we run up against some fact of life that we don't like, and it's this. Number 6, believe you are the exception to the rule. Because we're special. Our love is so different from anybody else's love. Nobody's ever loved like this. Nobody's ever felt like this. The music plays in the background. I could just hear the birds. The birds stop and look at us, Our initials, we already have the same last, our last names start with the same letter. I won't have to change my initials. It's just a perfect fit, And we went out to eat, and I ordered spaghetti, and he ordered spaghetti. Everybody at some point in life believes we are the exception to the rule, right? Not going to happen to me. Not going to be different for you. I'm going to be the exception, not all those other things, because we're in love. And I want you to hear from my heart today. I hope you are in love. But love is not enough. Love is vital. Love is important. Love feels great. But it is not enough. There is so much else that goes into it. And I want you to fall in love. Nice sound effect. I thought it was Big John snuck up there for a second. I want you to fall in love. I want you to live happily ever after. But you got to know there's a bunch of backstory to making that happen. There's a bunch of stuff that are choices you have to make. Decisions about how you're going to live. Who you're going to honor with your life. What's the goal of your life? And that's the thing that I'm after today. One last text. Over in Proverbs from Solomon. He says the prudent, the smart people, the wise people, the prudent understand where they are going, but fools deceive themselves. And for all of you, whether you're single, whether you're divorced, whether you're widowed, whether you're married, whether you're happily married, whether you're married, I want you to be prudent. I want you to understand where you're going, where the track, where the course of your life has been heading, the path is leading you. That's what he's saying. Smart people understand. If I'm on the road, if I'm going 29 south, I'm going towards D.C. That's where I'm going to end up if I keep on that path. Smart people understand. He says the fools deceive themselves. And one of the greatest areas we deceive ourselves is in this whole relationship thing. I'm the exception. I write it off. I know, Mama. I know, Daddy. But. I know he's been mean to everybody else, but he's good to me. These last few weeks, I don't know how it kind of hits all of you. I had some positive feedback and then negative feedback, so that's not sure I'm doing my job then, but I don't know where it lands in your life. But I hope it at least has stopped and made you think about the choices you're making today and how they will pop out tomorrow. And you may have had a terrible backstory up to this moment. Maybe you've been down that road and you're thinking, you're telling the statistics, Mike, and I'm already, I'm going to go 0 for anything because I've already done all this kind of stuff. If you're in that spot, I just want you to know that today can be the day that you say, this is the day, I'm not going to make some promise about it. This is the day that my performance is going to change. How I look at things is going to change. This is going to be my starting point, because if you get a starting point, it means you can take steps down that road. And that's my hope for you today. And it's my hope for all of us, that we will live as prudent people who understand where we're going, where we're headed because of the choices we made and the things we're doing. And that we won't be foolish and deceive ourselves. Because I can tell you from my own life, At my best, I've been prudent. And at my worst, in my close to worst, it's easy to be foolish. It's easy to deceive ourselves. Because when we want something and we want that feeling of it all, it can convince us that everything else is not true. I just want to encourage you not to go down that path.